Hello everybody, I hope you all are doing fine. What I want to do in this lecture is to create a simple Java program code which would do the initial connection to the database. We would go through a process where we would write a code to initiate the connection, and then we can continue on to write codes where we can create some tables, insert some data, and do some select statements from the table that we just created, and then display the result set. But we would have to start off with doing a connection first. So let's go ahead and start the connection. So what I would like to do is go ahead and create a file and start my new Java project, and I'm going to call it Java database project, and I would hit next and finish. So at this point I would come in and create a package. So I'm going to create new package, and I'm going to call it Java database package. Finish that. Now what we'll also have to do is create, let me go back to this. What we'll also have to do is create a new class, and I'm going to call it Java database connection, and I'm going to say this is public static void main, and generate comments and finish. So that would set us up with the initial structure. What we'll also have to do is download a connector. This is going to be the MySQL connector from the MySQL website, and bring it into the library. So let me bring out the page that you need to go to, and this is the MySQL, and this is mysql.com/downloads, and then you can go to the connector, and what we will need to do is use the connector J, which is the Java connector. So once I come to this page, which is the dev.mysql.com downloads, and you can select from there the connector, and then we are going to be interested in the J connector, or the Java connector. And I'm going to choose platform independent, and depending upon the kind of archive that I would like to download, I'm going to click on this my platform independent 5.1.40. This is the newest version of connector that is available. So once I click on download, this is where it comes to, which is my zip file, which is mysql-connector-java-5.1.40, and I'm just going to click on no thanks, just start my download, and I should be able to download this file. Now depending upon the internet connection, it's a very simple download. So once I go into the download, I can unzip this file. As you can see, I've already downloaded it previously, and once you unzip, there is only one file that we would be interested in, and the file is the jar file, which is this file right here, which is the MySQL connector java-5.1.40-bin.jar. Okay, so what we will do is I need to come in and add that to my library. So as you can see, my system library, I would right click in this, and then come into build path and configure my build path, and by default it should come to my Java build path right here, but if it does not, just make sure you come into the Java build path, and I'm going to click on add external jar, and then connect to this jar file, which is the MySQL connector java 5.1.40-bin.jar. And once I open it, and okay, now I should have my library built in. So now we will need to start doing my code. So over here, let's write a comment: simple code to do a basic Java database connection. Okay, and then start my connection. So what we'll do is do public static connection get connection and throws exception. So connection get connection, and we'll have to do an import right here. So public static connection get connection, we'll have to do an import right here. So I start my public static connection get connection throws exception, and I'll have to do an import right here. So if I come to connection right here, my import would be my java.sql. So I'm going to click on this import, which is my java.sql.connection, and I would start my, and I'll have to do return statement. Let's say return null for the time being, and then try out my try statement, and inside my try I'm going to build some variables that would help us or help me in establishing the connection. So I would start off with a string and driver equals com dot MySQL dot jdbc dot driver in my line, and URL. So I'll build my variables which would help me in the connection. So here is my strings that I had created. So one is the driver, which brings in the driver. So this is my address for the driver. Then my URL, and let me explain this URL just a little bit. This particular URL is using the local host, and 3306 is the port number, and this is the name of the database that I'm using. So if you want to replace this URL with an IP address and the name of the database, you can always do that. In this case, for me, I am using a local host, but if you have a server with a specific IP address, then you should be inserting your IP address right over here, okay, and followed by the name of the database. But in my case, I'm using the information underscore schema database, and since I'm using a default database, my username is root and my password is empty. There is no password in here. So what I'm going to do next is to build out my connection. So I'm going to say connection con equals driver manager dot get. So this is what I'm going to bring in, the get connection, username, password, think this is the one that I need to bring in, password, username, URL. So I brought in that import, which is my java.sql.driver manager, and my arguments are going to be my URL, comma, my username, and my password. Okay, so have that, and then I'm going to write system.out.println successfully connected to the information underscore schema database. Okay, and then I would write a catch statement here. So say catch exception E, and also write a statement here, system.out.println E. So now with the code I should be good with it. So let's go ahead and run this. I'm just going to create some of these things. I think I have some extra things in there, so let me make sure that okay, errors exist. So let's see what are some of the errors here. So the two errors was I was missing end quotation of my string here, and right here I think I have to put in a parenthesis. So this is exception E like this, and then system.out.println, and that should be good. So here is my Java connection here. That's my end here. This is where it starts. Exception, and I think I need another one here. All right. So that should be. Oh, and here in my public static void main method, I'm going to call this method called getConnection. Okay, so this method called getConnection gets called in my public static void main, and that should be all. And now let's go ahead and run this, and it still says an error here, line 21, get connection unhandled exception, type exception. Oh, I see. I have to write over here throws exception. So this get connection, I need to write it with a throw exception, so that if I do have an error, then that should take care of that. So okay, here we go. So right now it shows you that I am successfully connected to the information schema database. Yes, I saw that I got a warning with the connection without server's identity verification, and what that is I think since I'm using the root and no password, it's giving me an warning, because it says it's an establishing a SSL connection, secured socket layer connection without the server's identity verification. So that has to do something with the way the database is set up. Again, I'm still continuing to use it with a default root and no password, which should not be the case. You should always try it with, once you set up your SQL, you should probably have a user ID and password set up. So that might be why this warning is generated. But this is the most simplest way of figuring out or writing the Java code which does test the connection. So let me go over the code one more time. So here are my two packages that I imported. One is the SQL connection, the other one is the driver manager. So here is my class. I have my main method, throws exception. This is where it was generating an error, and inside I call this method called get connection, and then I write my get connection method right here, which is a public static connection get connection, which throws an exception. Within my exception I have a try, and inside I basically defined all my parameters for my database. So the first one is my string driver, which is my com.mysql.jdbc driver. The next one is my URL. This is where my database is in. The third one is my user ID, password. The fourth one is my class for name. I'm bringing in the driver that I just created, and then I write a statement connection con excuse me, which uses the driver manager dot get connection, and the three passwords are my URL, username, and password. Associated with that is my system out, which is a string which tells me if I'm connected, with an exception that I have. If I put in something in here, then I should get my other catch exception, because it would not connect to the database at that point. So if I try this now, I should see access denied for user at local host using password. Okay, so it tells me that this is the right way of connecting, and if I go back and do this again, then I should get my successfully connected to the information schema database. So this is the simplest code of generating the connection, making sure that the Java program utilizing the JDBC driver is connecting to the MySQL database, which is installed within my WAMP server. Thank you.